The film's narrative starts inside a detention facility, focusing on a restrained and shackled prisoner. When the soldiers arrive, they open the inmate's cell door and drag him out onto the balcony. All the inhabitants are seen screaming and calling him a murderer and a bloody monster. The jailer demands that a guard announce his retribution. Before the crowd, the guard declares that the court has sentenced him to be hanged in 2 days. But before hanging, the executioner will break his hands and feet. All the people are thrilled with excitement hearing this. At last, who is this killer? Let's find out. The story now flashes back a few years to a view of the Paris Fishmarket, the most stinking place in the city. People earn their bread and butter by selling fish and meat. We see a fish seller lady who gives birth to a dead child. Having already bred 4 dead children before, she kicks them into the stream with the rotten fish. But now she gives birth to a living child. Thinking he is dead, she also throws him into the stream. The child weeps because of the odious smell of rotten fish. People standing there notice this child and curse his mother. This child is the same prisoner who was sentenced to punishment. His name is Jean. He possesses 2 unique characteristics: a perfect sense of smell and the tendency that anyone who leaves him ends up dead somehow. His mother, who threw him away at birth, is sentenced to death. Jean is sent to the orphanage of Madame Goulot, who fosters children solely for the money. But the children in the orphanage feel insecure about their importance and try to kill Jean. Goulot saves him and beats the other children. Jean faces difficulties in the orphanage and does not utter a word for 5 years. Using his sense of smell, he learns about everything. Due to the limited capacity in the orphanage, Goulot sells him to a collector of animal skins when he is 13 years old. As Jean leaves, some thieves kill Goulot, stealing all her money. Jean's buyer takes hard work from him and also takes him to the city, where Jean, for the first time, experiences the wonderful world and its scents. Attracted by a perfume shop, he leaves his luggage behind. He sees a shopkeeper holding a very famous perfume and smells another scent from a fruit seller girl. Enchanted by her, the girl offers him fruit, seeing him hungry, but Jean grabs her hand. Frightened, she leaves, but Jean finds her using his sense of smell. He sits behind her, and the girl, suspecting someone's presence, shouts in fear. Jean covers her mouth to avoid drawing people's attention. When the people leave, Jean removes his hand from her mouth, but she is already dead. Her scent gradually fades away, leaving Jean astonished, wondering where the scent will dissolve. Now let's talk about another character, the great perfumer of Paris. His business had declined with the arrival of new perfumers. He used to imitate other perfumers. That same evening, Jean visits his shop to deliver goatskin and sees the variety of perfumes there. Smelling Baldini's body, Jean claims he can make such perfume for him, but Baldini mocks him. Jean explains his ability and Baldini gives him a chance. Jean creates a perfume that astonishes Baldini with its aroma of love. Seeing this, Jean assures him he can make the best perfumes ever. Baldini, longing for his lost love, is impressed by Jean's immense talent. Now Baldini acquires Jean from Grimmel. That very night, Grimmel, drunk, meets his demise by falling into a stream. Jean becomes the catalyst for Baldini's perfumes, catapulting them to fame throughout Paris. Baldini teaches Jean his expertise in perfume making, educating him about the 3 sets, comprising 4 scents, that make up every perfume. This means there are 12 scents that humans can easily differentiate. However, no one in the world can match this perfume if someone makes a 13th scent.
Jean becomes emotional, thinking he will be able to create it. He asks Baldini to teach him the process, promising to share it with the world. Baldini explains the process of adding 10,000 flowers into a bottle using his designed machine, a technique he had learned before coming to Paris. One day, Baldini finds Jean weeping. When Baldini asks why, Jean accuses him of lying, saying his method is unsuccessful and old. He couldn't capture the iron and glass into a bottle. After this incident, Jean loses consciousness. Worried about the loss of fame, Baldini grows anxious as Jean falls ill. Jean asks Baldini for other processes, and Baldini tells him to extract perfume from the fat of animal skins. Baldini orders him to go to Grasse, taking 1,000 formulas in return. Jean learns the work in Grasse as Baldini sends him there. As Jean leaves, Baldini's house collapses, killing him. In Grasse, Jean first feels a sense of freedom. He is no longer anyone's slave and can make his own decisions. There are 2 ways to Grasse. one through the village and the other through the mountains. Jean chooses the mountain path. On the way, he finds a cave where he rests, sleeping peacefully for many days. He dreams of the fruit seller girl. Awaking in confusion, Jean smells his body but cannot detect his own scent. While showering in the rain, he realizes he has no smell. The next morning, he heads to Grasse and senses the fruit seller girl's perfume again. He sees a beautiful girl getting off a carriage, pursues her, and follows her to Grasse. He enters a palace owned by the world's richest man, Riches. Laura, the lovely girl, is his daughter, the most stunning woman in Grasse. Jean works for a lady whose husband keeps a close watch on her. Jean learns 2 methods for obtaining perfume from animal fat while living with them. He applies the first method to his female co-worker, boiling her dead body with animal fat in a tank. But he fails. In the second process, he takes a streetwalker, using animal fat glossed on a cloth. After killing her, Jean shaves her head, wraps her body in the cloth, and extracts perfume from it. He tests it on the streetwalker's pet dog. Then he creates a set of 13 bottles as told by Baldini, meaning he must murder a person for each bottle. At Laura's birthday party, boys and girls play hide-and-seek. Jean seizes the opportunity to attack Laura, but she survives, while twin girls at the party disappear. Jean makes the first 2 bottles by killing these girls. Their dead bodies are found floating in the water under the city's bridge. A chain of girls' murders begins in the city. Frightened, people lock their doors to protect their daughters. Jean prepares 12 sets of bottles and mixes them into a big bottle. He needs 1 more bottle for the perfect perfume, meaning he must kill Laura. Observing this, Riches notes that all the victims were young, with no marks of seduction. The murderer has a reason for killing them. People visit the church for help, and the church's father agrees. A man arrives, claiming the murderer is caught, filling people with joy. Riches is skeptical, worried about his daughter. He decides to leave Grasse and escapes with her the next day. Jean senses Laura leaving the city and follows her using his ability. Meanwhile, the streetwalker's dog finds the hair and clothing of its owner in Jean's room. Drute, Jean's co-worker, discovers this. Police investigations reveal the cloth and hair of other girls. Riches stays the night in a hotel with Laura, keeping her room keys in his own room. Jean steals the key and enters Laura's room. The next day, Riches weeps bitterly. Finding Laura's dead body, Jean creates the 13th bottle, mixes it with the final bottle, and succeeds. Jean is now arrested by the police. The story returns to where the punishment is announced after 2 days. People come to witness Jean's execution. As they bring him out of prison, Jean opens the lid of the bottle. As the people stand waiting for Jean, he approaches the executioner, who emerges from the carriage dressed as a prince. The executioner kneels and calls Jean blameless. Weeping, Jean sprinkles perfume on a handkerchief, and as he waves it in the air, everyone feels the taste of heaven and calls him an angel. Jean sees himself as the savior of mankind. He throws the handkerchief among the people, and soon everyone starts making love without discrimination of age, wealth, or race. Jean feels true love. Missing the fruit seller girl, he believes that loving her in such a way would make her his own. Thinking about this, he becomes sad and starts weeping. Suddenly, Riches arrives, brandishing a sword to kill Jean. But the magic of the perfume makes him uncontrollable, bending at Jean's feet and asking for forgiveness. Jean realizes his mistake and leaves the city. The perfume's effect fades among the citizens. Jean decides to return to his birthplace, the fish counter. He takes the perfume bottle from his pocket and pours it over himself. Realizing this, everyone around him is irresistibly attracted to him due to the perfume's impact, tearing him apart and thus ends Jean's life.